This is going to be a quick video on how to use Excel and how to use Excel to make your job easier in SPSS. Let's get started. Here I've opened a blank Excel workbook. I hope that y'all will actually learn to love Excel because it's really useful. You not only can use it in the business world and in real life and in lots of other jobs on the job, but you can also use it personally. It's great for keeping up with a budget. It's also really good for anything that has to be tabulated. So I use it as a grade book, I use it as a budget, and when I was a master's student and a doc student, I used it to calculate like my hours for internships and for volunteering and for nowadays for the CEUs I need to maintain my license. So it's really useful. So let's explore a little bit. First, you have rows that are numbered and columns that have letters. The intersection of each of these is called a cell, and in each cell you can either type a word, type numbers, or if you start with an equal sign, you can start a formula, such as if I want to sum something, like adding it together, I would type equal, sum, and then open a parentheses and then tell Excel which numbers do you want me to add. For example, let's say I had some numbers here. I want to add those. So I've clicked and held that F2 and drug down to F6. Now it will. Now the sum is 0 because there's no numbers here. So let's give it some numbers. Ta-da! And now we have that sum there. At the bottom you can see that we're on the first sheet. Should you want to, you can add as many sheets in the same file as you want. If you want to use this for budgeting or for keeping up with your expenses or for keeping up with the hours that you are on an internship or job site or whatever, you can change these to the months. And then at the end, you could have something that is like year to date. So again, it's a really versatile program and there's a lot of great uses for this. One of the reasons I talk about Excel is because many of the websites that we use to survey people, to gather data from them, we download that data into an Excel file. And we do that for lots of reasons, mainly because the Excel is much easier for us to clean up and code data than SPSS. So we need to be able to have skills in both Excel and SPSS. Some of the things that Excel can do, you of course can do in SPSS, and SPSS can do a lot of things that Excel can't do when it comes to statistics. But honestly, some of the skills that you can do in SPSS are actually easier in Excel and require less steps and less clicking. So let's talk about what some of those things are. I find that finding a sum, a mean, mode, average, standard deviation, a range, the min, the maximum scores, and finding a percentage or even a total score is much easier in Excel. So let's try some of those examples so that you can see what you would need to type to do basically all of your last SPSS assignment just in Excel. I've pulled up some random data here. As you can see, the columns are marked with day 1, day 2, day 3, and so on. Anytime that you have data that's from a survey, you'll find that that top row there, row 1, will be a value label. This is the name of each of the variables. And then starting in 2 is when your actual numbers are. Let's say this is a sample that I've recruited for research, and every day I gave them some sort of test. Well, while it might be interesting to compare day 1 to day 2 or day 2 to day 7, chances are we'll also want a total score. So I'm going to come over here to H1 and write the word total. Then in H2, I'm going to type an equal sign. When you start with an equal sign, you tell Excel, hey, what's coming is a formula. You're going to do something other than just display something. If you don't start with an equal sign, it'll just display the information. So I start with an equal sign and then I write sum, and as you can see, a little help bubble will appear that shows you what are the possible formulas that start with those letters. But sum means to add, so that's all I need. Then I open a parentheses. Again, Excel is trying to help me by showing, hey, you need to tell me which numbers. Well, I want this total to add together all 7 days. So I start with A2 and I click and hold and drag all the way to G2. That fills my parentheses with the letters A2 to G2. Then I close my parentheses and I hit enter. And now I have a number that adds up these 7 scores. If I had forgotten my equal sign, it would look like this. And as you can see, there's no number there because I forgot to put that equal sign. I can go back and of course fix it, but again, it's important to remember to start with an equal sign. Well, that's just the total score for that first person there, that row 2. I want it for everyone. So I click and hold and drag all the way down to my last person, which for this example is the 76th row. Now that that whole column is highlighted, I go up to Fill and I select Fill Down. And what I'm filling is this formula. So as you can see, the last one is now, again, adding the exact same thing, but for this last row here. Now I have a total score for everyone in my sample, and it only took a matter of clicks. In SPSS, this is a lot more unwieldy, so it's easier to do it in Excel first. Now that I have these total scores, maybe there's other things I would like to know about this sample. For example, I might want to know what the grand total is. What is the grand total of all of the total scores? Well, in that case, I would come over here and select a cell and start with my equal sign, and I would then sum all of our totals. Our totals start with H2 and go all the way down to H76. That's my grand total. Maybe what I want to do is find out how many people are in my study. Now, that's fairly easy in this because there's 76 rows of information, and the first one is a value label, so that would mean 75. But let's just double check. So what is the number in our sample? Again, equal, and then I can type the word count. And this will count the number of cells in whatever range I tell them that has a number. You can also ask them which ones aren't empty, which ones are blank, or hey, which ones have a specific number or letter in them. The count function is actually really useful. But for here, let's just do count, and then again, look at our same range of numbers. And yes, there are 75 people. So now I can of course easily find the average, because again, an average is just the total divided by the number of people. And now I have an average total score. Let's say I want to know the median. Again, equal, and then the word median, and then the same range of numbers. I can also find the mode the same way, with equal, the word mode, and then again, our same range of numbers. Also, with every mean, aka an average, we have to have a standard deviation. So what is the standard deviation for this? Equal, and then for this, instead of spelling out the word standard deviation, I have to write STDEV.P. And then our same range of numbers, and there's our standard deviation. Finally, I might want to come up with the range, particularly what's the maximum number, what's the minimum number, and what's the difference between those. For the maximum, again, equal, and then the word max. Our range, ta-da, the maximum score is 51. And I can also find the minimum by typing equals min and putting in our same range. And ta-da, the minimum score is a 29. And then I can find the range by just taking our maximum and subtracting the minimum. So there we go. So now you can use Excel to do most of the skills that you would have used for a ratio or interval variable on the last SPSS assignment. The most important skill from here, though, is the total score, because finding a total score is, like I said, a lot of little button clicks in SPSS, but I can easily do it in Excel. I can then import this data with these 7 columns and my brand new total score into SPSS and use that as my data. So again, I hope this was a helpful, quick video that orients you to Excel. If you're interested in learning more about Excel, there are lots of resources online and plenty of other YouTube videos, so feel free to explore. Other than that, if you have any questions, post the FAQ board and I'll see you online.